Well, hello to anyone who is watching this broadcast later on, whether you're watching later on Facebook or you're watching later on YouTube. Welcome. My name is Corey, and I am a husband, a writer, a speaker, a diversity and inclusion coach, certified through Cornell University, an artist, and I'm a father of Black daughters, one of which who just graduated from high school. So yeah, that's who I am. If you're new and we haven't met each other, hi, thank you for being here. Hey, if you are joining live on Facebook and you trust that what I'm about to say is not something that will, well, it might make some of your friends mad. But if you trust what I'm about to say, that you want your friends to hear it, feel free to share it. You never have to ask me if it's okay for you to share what I'm putting out here. I put it out here so that you can share it. So as you're coming in, please hit the share button. I want to say hello to all of you who are coming in live. Hello, Don, Jennifer, and Jennifer. You can also share the link, the YouTube link later if you'd like to, or if you are watching later and you want to wait to the very end to hit the share button, you can do so as well. I will try to engage with all of the comments that are in the in both YouTube and Facebook, so that you know I saw what you said as you're commenting. When I start going, though, I may not see your comments. In fact, I'll actually turn the comments off so that I don't get distracted, because I am easily distracted. But I just wanted to take a few moments and talk about something I'm not asked about very often, but from time to time I am asked for my thoughts about a Black thought leader. I guess that's the only way, that's the fair way of me describing her. But I'm not asked often because I think it's pretty obvious, if you have listened to anything I've said or read anything that I've written, that me and Candace Owens, who at some point in this broadcast I will start to refer to as her we don't speak of, are on two different sides of a conversation. And I just want to say this, that there's an idea out there that we need to make space for everyone who has an opinion when it comes to the issue of race. And let me just say here right from the start that that is such a fundamentally flawed idea, because there is a good and an evil when it comes to the conversation about race. And I'm going to get to what I believe is evil about Candace Owens in just a moment, about the things that she's been saying. But I want to say that because, people will talk about, well, Dr. King and Malcolm X disagreed about how things should be done. And there were folks like Ella Baker who were part of the civil rights movement that where there was not always agreement amongst them, but their disagreement was about methodology. Their disagreement was not about systemic injustice and racism. So I want to be very clear that when we're talking about making space for differing opinions, there are Black folks who I disagree with some of the things that they may say. I may disagree with some of the stances they may take. I may disagree with some of the methodology that they may choose. But where I don't disagree is in the fact that America is traditionally and still today an anti-Black nation. That America is opposed to Blackness. So when you are having conversations about race, it is detrimental to make space for people. This is me sharing this, so you feel free to have your opinion about this, but it is detrimental to have people involved in conversations about systemic injustice who are only a part of that conversation to disprove that there is a such thing as systemic injustice to begin with. Like, it's one thing for Malcolm X to say that I don't trust white folks the same way that Dr. King was trusting white folks. For Malcolm X to say, I don't think that sitting down with the president accomplishes the same thing that you want to accomplish, Dr. King. That's different than them disagreeing about the fact that something needs to be done, that there needs to be some changes, that Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and George Floyd were lynched and victims of racism. They were victimized by anti-Blackness. There is no space in conversation for people who are trying to say that that is not reality. Because there's a term for that, and that's not the term for that is not difference of opinion. The term for that is gaslighting. There is not space in conversation about race and racism for gaslighting from anyone. White, black, red, yellow, black, brown, whatever the color is. There is no space in that conversation for people who just want to gaslight, for people who have not done the work or to understand the history that we're dealing with, for people who present more and more fake and alternative facts for racist people to digest. Candace Owens, I'll now jump ahead to why I believe her rhetoric, the things that she says, are so dangerous. First, let me start actually by saying, well, what she most recently said and did was so evil. George Floyd died saying, I cannot breathe, in front of the nation, in front of the world, before his family had a memorial service to remember and bury him. Candace Owens went live, or whatever she did on YouTube. I've seen bits and pieces of the video. I watched it in bits that I could stand, because it made me so furious to see a title that says, I do not support George Floyd. Who does that when somebody has died and the family hasn't even had a chance to bury him? And you're going out there saying, look at me, everybody, look at me. It's like the scene in Jurassic Park, the very first one, when Jeff Gold, however you say his name, if you guys seen Jurassic Park, you know what I'm talking about, the dark haired guy with the glasses, Jeff Goldblum, whatever. He's in a truck behind the truck that the dinosaurs attacking with the kids are in. The kids are in the truck, the dinosaurs attacking the truck, and someone took a flare and threw it away. And the dinosaur started chasing that flare. And then Jeff Goldblum got out of his truck for whatever reason with the flare and started running with it for no reason, running with it in his hand to try to get the dinosaur to run away. That's what Candace Owens did. Okay. We had a conversation that was moving forward on race. And I was watching racist white folks have nothing to say. They had no space to get in. They had nowhere to join the conversation. They were outnumbered. They were outmatched. They were seeing that the world had turned on them, that justice was prevailing, that goodness was prevailing, that people who have been talking about race and racism in forward-moving ways were starting to gain momentum. And all of a sudden, Candace Owens grabbed her flare and said, look at me. Because that's all that is Candace Owens capitalizing on what business people know is sometimes a very profitable business, is to zig while other people are zagging. Candace Owens is doing a business tactic in the middle of a justice conversation for our effing lives. We're talking about Black lives, and Candace Owens is engaging in marketing campaigns to prop herself up as a voice and a thought leader, using a man's death, not mourning it, not sad that he is dead. Her very first words in the most recent video, some of her very first words were about how Black folks are going to be mad at me for this. Your first words should not be about you at all. When your title of your video has to do with George Floyd, it should be sadness for the family, sadness and grief for the community that is broken, having watched a man lynched on national television after or on screens or whatever, well, it probably was on national television because the news probably aired it. And your very first thing is to come out and talk about yourself. And all Candace Owens does is provide content for white folks to say, I didn't say it, she did. See, one of your own. One of your own people is saying all the racist stuff that I believe. I didn't say it, she did. Not recognizing that Candace Owens is not playing this game for the well-being of human beings. I don't know the woman, but the fruit of what you're about should show up. The fruit should show up in like common human decency, like normal human decency. Imagine if George Floyd, let's just concede for the sake of this conversation that Candace Owens is accurate in what she found out about George Floyd's rap sheet. Let's just concede that Candace Owens, that George Floyd was a hardened criminal. I don't believe he was. I haven't looked it up, to be honest with you. I haven't looked up to see what his rap sheet is. I heard what she said because that doesn't matter to me, but let's just concede that he is those things. And you are a brother, a sister, a mom, a dad to George Floyd, who is now dead. How do you want somebody to talk about someone who you know and love? What, like, this person is dead. It's the reason why when you go to a funeral of someone, people from the Protestant faith for a very long time, those who believe in the dichotomy of heaven and hell, even people who believe in the dichotomy of heaven and hell, don't go to a person's funeral who they may believe has died and gone on to hell. They don't stand up in front of the family and say, hey, your son, your nephew, your niece, your mom, you know she went to hell, right? Who the hell does that? No one but someone looking for attention and looking for clicks does that. It's evil. And I have no tolerance for it. It's why she is her who we don't speak of, because she is vile. And any person who is trying to share her work for the sake of objectivity, which objectivity in a time like this, objectivity is a privilege that few Black folks have. I like what Maria Taylor said on ESPN. She said, my patience left my body when George Floyd breathed his last breath. And I could not agree more with Maria Taylor. That my ability to tap into conversations about my daughter's lives in an objective fashion that makes space for white people to be able to understand and make space for a palatable presentation of our truth. My space for that I'm done with that. But when Ahmaud Arbery was lynched, when Breonna Taylor was sleeping in her home, when a young Black woman, not much older than my oldest daughter who just graduated, is shot 8 times, sleeping in her own home, I don't have tolerance to be nice and to sit down at the table with people who I know that when all of this is said and done, your ideas and your thoughts about all of this will fade. You'll have no more to say once the news cycle shifts. I don't have time for it. And while I'm here, let me close with this. This weekend, a lot of your churches, those of you who go to church, if you're not a church-going person, here's the moment that you can tune out. Thank you for watching. Please share this video if you found it inspiring, or whatever. If you found it, even if you found it maddening, please share this video. If you are a person who's going to tune into a church this weekend, if you are a person who has been a part of a church, and you are aware of the fact that 90% of America's churches this weekend will have something to say about race, If you are part of one of those churches who in the last 4 years, the last 5 or 10 years even, hasn't said a damn thing about race or racism, please spare me I am so proud of my church for being willing to talk about things and not I'm so proud that my church is not afraid to talk about the real issues. That is the biggest crock of trash. If your church hasn't talked about this in 10 plus years, or within the last 4 years, with all of the things that have happened in America when it comes to race, you don't get to come forward and say you are proud. Your church isn't afraid. Your church is scared to death. Your church has remained silent, and you don't get to center them now and say, look how great my church is. And if you are a pastor or a leader who has filmed a conversation about this, and that film or conversation did not begin with, I am sorry, personally sorry. I am personally sorry that I have not said more or done more. If the conversation does not begin that way, and you know you didn't start it that way, you need to go back and refilm. I know it's Saturday morning. I know that your video guy or girl or whoever person that films your videos may not be available. But here's what I do know. I know that mega churches I know of a mega church pastor who at 3 a.m. on a Saturday night asked his whole staff to come in to build a prop because he had a vision in the middle of the night or something he needed to preach about. If you could do it for your own ego and narcissism, you sure as hell should be able to do it for something as serious as Black lives. If you have recorded a video that apologizes for all white folks, but has not apologized for you personally, start over. And if you go to that church and you hear them saying this, and you don't hear an apology, a repentance, you don't see white folks walking through this in a way that it's like, I'm learning as you're learning. Which, to be honest with you, I keep hearing this blind leading the blind in my mind when I hear about this. I hope to God that there is forward movement within the church. But please stop centering your church as anti-racist when they have not been. It's insulting. It is hurtful to the Black blood who's crying up from the ground. Understand this, that over the last 4 years, there has been somewhat of an exodus from white evangelical churches by Black folks. It's been quiet, but it has been happening. You look around the room when we were in the room, and you see the Black folks have left. Why have they left? Why are they gone? You don't get to now come forward and yay, my church. You don't get to do that. The platitudes don't help us. That in and of itself tells me that you don't get it. I really am sorry to be offending anybody who's offended. I am the biggest teddy bear. Like I said to you, I have Black children that my wife yesterday and I, before the graduation, I said, babe, can you bottle those tears for me and tell me why you're sad? Like, what is it that makes you sad? She said, well, she's gotten older, and we're about to send her out in the world, and I'm not sure she's ready. I don't know what kind of mistakes she's gonna make. The one that struck me just now is we're about to send a Black woman out into a world that remains anti-Black. And how would you feel if your daughter or son was heading out into a world that was adverse to them because of the color of their skin? maybe you would have less time for platitudes also, and posturing and centering of whiteness. Now, I didn't come on live today with a sermon that I had planned out and had points about. I woke up this morning with like 4 blogs and 3 videos in my mind, all bouncing off each other. And I just said, I have to get some of this stuff out and share some of this stuff. And I woke up and saw some stuff from Candace Owens. And I can't deal. I've seen people say she makes some good points. You know who else made good points? And I really am done this time. You know who really else made some good points for anybody who knows scripture? Satan in the wilderness with Jesus made some good points. When he said, Jesus, if you jump off of this, the angels will catch you. Hey, if you turn this, you're hungry. Why not just turn these stones into bread? Those were good points. Hungry people should eat bread. Scripture does say that the angels would catch the righteous so they wouldn't harm themselves. These were good points that Satan was making. It didn't make him any more harmful or evil because Satan made some good points. Candace Owens makes some good points. It doesn't make him any less evil or harmful to Black folks. I don't really need to say this for me, but if you got Black friends that you care about, don't share them no Candace Owens videos. Don't even ask them about her. There's no reason to talk about her to Black folks. Any Black person you know to be grieving the loss of George Floyd, please, for the love of God, if you care about them at all, don't share Candace Owens amongst white folks if you want to share her. But please stop sharing her with Black folks. Grace and peace to all of you.